Imagine your husband vanishing without a trace. No goodbye, no body, no answers. Years later, when you finally learned how to survive the silence, his sister pulls up outside your house in a luxury car, looks you dead in the eye, and says just 3 words that shatter everything you thought you knew. Get in. Welcome back to Betty's Magical Stories, the channel where ordinary lives collide with extraordinary secrets. If you love emotional stories filled with mystery, unexpected twists, and moments that change everything, you're in the right place. Today's story begins with a disappearance that shattered a marriage and ends with a luxury car, a dangerous truth, and 3 words that reopened a past that was never truly buried. Settle in, because this story proves that sometimes the people we lose aren't really gone. They're just waiting for the right moment to return. The night my husband vanished began like any other, with the ordinary weight of routine pressing softly against our lives. Dinner dishes were still warm in the sink, the television murmured half-heard news from the living room, and the rain tapped at the windows in that patient, almost polite way that makes you think it will stop soon. He kissed me on the forehead, told me he'd be back in an hour, maybe 2. He said he needed air, space, time to think. We'd had an argument, the kind married people pretend isn't serious but both secretly catalog in their minds. I watched him grab his jacket, his phone, his wallet. He didn't look back when he closed the door. By morning, the bed beside me was cold. His phone went straight to voicemail. The rain had stopped, but something heavier settled into the house. At first, I told myself he'd stayed with a friend, that he needed the night to cool off. By noon, worry had sharpened into fear. By evening, fear became something darker, something that hummed beneath my skin and refused to let me sit still. I called the police. They asked the standard questions, the ones designed to reassure and accuse all at once. Was our marriage stable? Had he ever talked about leaving? Did he have debts, secrets, enemies? Each question felt like a small betrayal, as if by answering I was chiseling away at the man I thought I knew. They took notes, nodded, promised to follow up. I watched their car pull away and felt the sudden, overwhelming realization that I was alone in this. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. His disappearance became a quiet headline in the local paper for a brief moment, then a footnote, then nothing at all. Friends stopped calling as often. My family learned to lower their voices around me. I learned how to smile without feeling it. How to say, "I'm fine," without choking on the words. At night, I replayed every conversation, every glance, every missed sign. I wondered if he'd planned it, if I'd been blind, if love had made me stupid. His sister, Mara, was the only one who never pretended things were normal. She came by sometimes, unannounced, bringing groceries I hadn't asked for and questions I couldn't answer. We'd never been close. She was sharp-edged where my husband was soft-spoken, ambitious where he was content to drift. Still, in those first months, we shared a kind of grief that made us allies by default. We sat at my kitchen table, drinking coffee that went cold, speculating in circles. Where would he go? Why would he leave everything behind? Why wouldn't he call? After a year, the police officially labeled him a cold case. The phrase sounded clinical, detached, like a diagnosis with no treatment plan. I packed his clothes into boxes, not because I was ready to let go, but because I couldn't stand opening the closet anymore. I went back to work full-time. I learned how to fill my evenings so the silence wouldn't crush me. Life, infuriatingly, kept moving. Years passed, 3, then 4. People stopped asking about him altogether. When they did, it was with an awkward curiosity, as if his disappearance were a strange hobby I'd once had. I stopped wearing my wedding ring, but never officially filed for anything. There was no body, no goodbye, no certainty. How do you end a story that never finished? On the 5th anniversary of the night he left, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest that felt different from grief. It felt like anticipation, though I couldn't explain why. I went through my day on autopilot. Grocery store, bank, home. The sky was clear, too blue for my mood, and the street outside my house was quiet in that suburban way that makes every unexpected sound feel like an intrusion. I was unloading bags from my car when I heard the low purr of an engine that didn't belong in my neighborhood. I looked up and saw a sleek, black, luxury sedan glide to a stop at the curb. The paint reflected the sunlight like a mirror. For a moment, I thought it had the wrong address. The driver's door opened, and Mara stepped out. I barely recognized her. Gone were the practical clothes and tired eyes I remembered. She wore a tailored coat, expensive sunglasses, her hair perfectly styled. She looked powerful, like someone who had stepped into a different life entirely. She didn't greet me, didn't ask how I was. She pulled off her sunglasses, fixed me with an intense look, and said, "Get in." I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "What?" "Get in the car," she repeated. Her voice was calm, but there was an urgency underneath it that made my skin prickle. "Is this some kind of joke?" I asked. "What are you doing here?" "I can't explain here," she said, "and I can't explain everything, but you need to come with me, now." Every instinct screamed at me to refuse. Years of unanswered questions had taught me to distrust sudden developments. But there was something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Fear mixed with determination, the same look my husband had worn the night he left. I glanced at my house, at the groceries melting in the sun, at the life I'd carefully stitched together from fragments. Then I looked back at Mara. "If this is about him," I said, my voice barely steady, "you owe me more than get in." She hesitated just for a second. "He's alive," she said quietly. The world tilted. I don't remember opening the passenger door or fastening my seatbelt. I only remember the sound of my heart pounding in my ears as the car pulled away. "Where is he?" I demanded. "Why didn't you tell me? Why now?" Mara kept her eyes on the road. "Because until now I couldn't, and because if I tell you too much, I put you in danger." I laughed again, this time hysterical. "Danger? You disappear for years, show up in a car worth more than my house, and you're worried about danger?" She finally looked at me. "This isn't a movie," she said. "This is real, and it's bigger than you think." We drove for hours. City faded into highway, highway into stretches of land I didn't recognize. She stopped once for gas, paid cash, and didn't let me out of her sight. My phone had no signal. I felt like I'd slipped into an alternate version of my life, one where nothing made sense, but everything felt terrifyingly important. Finally, we turned onto a private road lined with trees and security cameras. A gate opened without her stopping. The house at the end of the drive wasn't a house at all, but an estate, all glass and steel and quiet menace. My stomach twisted. Inside, the air smelled of lemon polish and something metallic. The rooms were vast, sparsely furnished, like a hotel no one ever stayed in. "Where is he?" I whispered. "Not here," she said. "Not yet." She led me to a sitting room and gestured for me to sit. I didn't. I paced, years of suppressed emotion boiling over. "You said he's alive. You said I was in danger. Start talking." She took a deep breath. "You remember how he used to do consulting work? Financial modeling, risk analysis?" "Yes," I snapped. "What does that have to do with anything?" "He was recruited," she said.
by people who don't officially exist. He was good, too good. He saw patterns they didn't expect him to see.
I stared at her. You're telling me my husband disappeared because of, what, some secret organization? I'm telling ya, he found evidence of massive financial crimes tied to powerful people, people who don't like loose ends. My knees went weak, and I sank into a chair. Then why am I alive? Because he made sure of it, she said softly. The night he left, he knew they were watching. He couldn't tell you without putting you at risk. He cut himself out of his own life to protect you. The words hit harder than any accusation ever could. And you? I asked. Where do you fit into this? They tried to recruit me too, she said. I refused. So I made myself useful in other ways. I built resources, connections, money, a shield. And now? I asked. Now they're moving again, she said, and your name came up. A cold chill ran through me. Why? Because you're the one thing he never accounted for, she said. His emotional blind spot. Silence filled the room, heavy and absolute. I want to see him, I said finally. You can, she said, but after that your life won't be the same. You won't be able to go back to pretending this never happened. I thought of the years I'd already lost, the half-life I'd been living. I haven't been pretending, I said. I've been surviving. She nodded. Then you're stronger than he ever gave you credit for. That night I slept in a guest room with no windows, my dreams fractured and restless. In the morning, Mara drove me to another location, smaller, quieter, a safe house, she called it. He was thinner than I remembered, older, his hair threaded with gray, his eyes carrying a weight that made my chest ache. When he saw me, he froze, as if he couldn't quite believe I was real. I'm sorry, he said before I could speak. I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit him. Instead, I walked forward and touched his face, grounding myself in the undeniable truth of him. Alive, warm, real. Why was all I managed. Because I loved you, he said. Because I still do. We talked for hours, days compressed into explanations that never felt sufficient. He told me about running, about living under different names, about the constant vigilance. He told me how Mara had been his lifeline, how she'd built an empire while he hid in the shadows. He told me he'd watched from afar, made sure I was safe, even when it nearly broke him. In the end, there were no easy answers, no neat resolution, just choices. I could go back to my old life, carrying this secret like a second heart. Or I could step into their world, accept the risks, and rebuild something new from the wreckage of what we'd lost. As I looked at the man I'd mourned for years, I realized something painful and liberating all at once. The life I'd had was already gone. It had disappeared the night he walked out the door. This was just the moment I finally caught up to the truth. When Mara's luxury car pulled away from the safe house days later, taking him with her to another undisclosed location, I stood alone in the driveway. My phone buzzed with a new number, a single message. We're not done. Not yet. For the first time in years, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt like I was finally being invited in. If this story kept you hooked until the very end, you were exactly where you belong. Here at Betty's Magical Stories, we bring you powerful tales of love, loss, secrets, and second chances. Stories that linger in your mind long after the video ends. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new magical story. And remember, some stories don't end when the screen goes dark. They follow you. Until next time, this is Betty's Magical Stories.
where every story hides a little magic.